Welcome to the Cosmic Frog homepage, where we can easily create, open and delete models. Opening a model couldn't be easier. Simply click the card and the model will open directly inside Cosmic Frog. To toggle between models, you can use the Models button to get back to the homepage and open an alternate model. And if we return to the homepage, then we can easily search across all of our models. Now let's take a look at creating a new model using the Quick Start template. Quick Start templates are Excel based, and when they're uploaded, data will be transformed into our Anora model. This is the unified supply chain data model that underpins optimization, simulation, risk and greenfield engines. So we could start by downloading an empty template, but we're actually going to download an example, and we have several examples here. There are also chapters in the video that give an overview of each of these examples. So let's download outbound distribution for a single echelon supply chain and open that up to see that we then have 4 sheets in the template. One that allows us to define our customer demand. Then we are able to define facilities and the products that are available at those facilities. And we could also, depending on the network we're modeling, define suppliers and policies. These will be covered in other chapters of the video. So we could also see that each column has tooltips to tell us information about the column and whether it's required. Anything that's in deep purple is highlighted here, and that's required data that must be populated. And so in this example, we are modeling an outbound distribution network. So we have 10 customers. Each customer has the 3 product groups in the network: spacesuits, rockets and consumables. And we can see here that we've provided a quantity and a unit price. We only need to give it information around either the city or the postal code and the country. On import, this will automatically be geocoded as part of the Quick Start import. Now let's take a look at the facilities. So we have a single echelon network, and there are 7 distribution centres in this network. Each distribution centre is able to handle all of the products: rockets, spacesuits and consumables. Again, we've given it information about the city and the region, could be city and postcode, so everything will be automatically geocoded. We've also put in fixed operating costs and throughput capacities. We're also able to put in handling costs associated with inbound and outbound. Here we've elected just to put in an outbound handling cost. Again, these are not mandatory, these aren't required fields. Finally, let's take a look at the product type column. We can see here there are 3 options that can be selected in a drop down. Those options are available. So this is where product is generated within the network. So this could represent production, but in this example we're just telling it that the product starts here because we're only modeling the outbound distribution network. And that will generate the relevant policies for us when we import this into the Anora model. We could also change this option to stocked, and this is where inventory of this product would be held at the facility, and we'll be able to put in additional information in terms of storage capacity, unit storage cost and initial inventory. And we could also, where we're looking at a multi-echelon network, say that this is cross-docked. So the product isn't able to be held in inventory or produced here, it simply flows through. So check out the other templates and other chapters in the video that cover off examples where we're holding inventory and we have multi-echelon networks where we're cross-docking things. But for this example, we're simply going to leave this as available, that says the product is always available at all of our distribution centres within the network. So once we've populated our template, we can easily upload it by selecting the Excel file. We can take the default, or we can give it a specific model name. I'm going to call mine outbound distribution, and we can also add a description. And simply clicking the Create Quick Start model will start processing that data. And we'll see here on the card how that model is being processed, and we'll be notified here once it's ready. So we can now see the model has been successfully created and that data imported from our Quick Start template, and we just simply click the card and then that model will open up inside Cosmic Frog. So now we can see the Anora data model and the tables that have been populated in the model from importing that Quick Start template. We can see that we've got customers and facilities populated, and note that they have automatically been geocoded as part of the import. That means that we can go and easily look at them on a map. We can see that these are the facilities and customers that have been created. We also have the products, the 3 products: spacesuits, rockets and consumables. Period data has automatically been created, and because we said that data was available, all products were available at all DCs in the import spreadsheet, then production policies have automatically been created. There are also warehousing policies because we defined outbound handling costs, so they've gone into the relevant policies table. We of course have transportation policies that have been automatically generated, and they've been generated using a set of groups which again have all been automatically generated as part of that import. And then finally we have the customer demand, and this means that all we have to do after import is click run and run the baseline. So now you've successfully created your first model using the Quick Start template. Be sure to go back and check out the other use case examples for templates and the other chapters in the video, which will give you more insight to suppliers, production, inventory, and also defining policies in the Quick Start template. In this chapter, we're going to look at the example supply and distribution Quick Start template for a single echelon network. So here we're actually going to be defining suppliers, and that supply coming in, flowing through distribution centers to service the demand. So let's click to download this template and we can open it straight up inside. So on the customer demand sheet, we can see that we have populated all of the required columns. These columns highlighted here in dark purple. And we've got 10 customers, and every customer has each product: spacesuits, rockets and consumables. And for each of those customer product records, we've defined a quantity and a unit price. So now if we take a look at the supplier product sheet, this is where we've defined 3 suppliers. One in Pittsburgh, which is able to supply rockets into the network, one in Austin, Texas, that supplies spacesuits, another supplier in Denver, Colorado. Again, all we've had to define here is a supplier name, information so that it can be geocoded, and then which product each of those suppliers is able to supply into the network. So now let's take a look at the facility product sheet. We have 7 distribution centers. Each of these distribution centers can hold the products: rockets, spacesuits and consumables. We have provided information for geocoding and also a fixed operating cost and a throughput capacity. We've also put in a unit outbound handling cost. And finally, we've set the product type to cross-stock for all products at all of the distribution centers. So we don't need to set this to available or stock. Effectively, the product's just flowing through these distribution centers. It's coming in from the suppliers, it's flowing straight through, and it's going out to that customer demand. So let's now import that Quick Start template. We can simply select it. I'm going to call this model supply and distribution and give it the same description. And then we can create our Quick Start model. Now the data has been successfully imported and that new model has been created, we can simply click to open it up inside Cosmic Frog and see the Anora tables that have been populated by importing that Quick Start template. So we can see that customers, facilities and the supplier tables have all been populated and notably geocoded as part of the Quick Start template import. This means we can immediately display that data on the map, and we can see here that we have customers, facilities, but we also have those suppliers in Denver, Austin and Pittsburgh. The products table has been populated with spacesuits, rockets and consumables, and we've also created information for periods, as this is a single time period model. Because we're now modeling supply, we've also got the supplier capabilities table populated, and this is showing the relationship in terms of which supplier can supply which product into the supply chain. Warehouse policies have also been automatically created because we defined an outbound handling cost in the Quick Start template, and we've also automatically generated transportation policies that can flow product between all of the suppliers, facilities and customers within the network. And that's using a set of groups which again have been automatically generated on Quick Start Import. Finally, we have our customer demand in terms of how much quantity for each customer product group. So all we have to do now is click the run button and we're able to go and run the baseline. Be sure to go back and check out the other use case examples for templates and the other chapters in the video, which will give you more insight to suppliers, production, inventory, and also defining policies in the Quick Start template. In this chapter, we're going to look at an example for production and inventory in a multi-echelon supply chain. So let's click to download this template and then we can open it straight up inside Excel. So on the customer demand sheet, we can see that we've got the demand represented for each customer. There are 10 customers in total, and each customer is getting all three products: spacesuits, rockets and consumables. We've provided information that can be geocoded. We can see here that the dark purple columns are the columns that are required, must be populated. And then for each customer product record, we've defined the quantity, the demand quantity for that product and the unit price associated with it. So on the facilities product sheet, we've defined central distribution centers, and there are 4 of those: Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Austin, Texas, Denver in Colorado, and Phoenix in Arizona. And those central distribution centers are able to bring in rockets, consumables and spacesuits. Although rockets are only available at Pittsburgh and Austin, and spacesuits are only available at Denver and Phoenix. Consumables are available at all central distribution centers. Central distribution centers have a fixed operating cost associated with them, and the product type for CDCs is being set to available. This means that product is actually produced at those facilities. This is also where the production asset sits. And you'll notice that when the available option is set, then the production cost is available to enter. So we've entered production costs here associated with producing those products at those facilities: Pittsburgh, Austin, Denver and Phoenix. The next echelon on the network are distribution centers, and we can see that we've got 7 of those distribution centers. This is now a multi-echelon network, so distribution centers aren't able to produce the product, it's not available, so they have to source the product and have it replenished from the central distribution centers. Note that there is also no supply defined in this example, so the product is coming from production into the supply chain from the central distribution centers. So the distribution centers also have a fixed operating cost, but that's lower. And the product type for distribution centers is set to stock. So this means that product is held in inventory. And you'll notice that where we set stock as an option, then the storage capacity columns and the initial inventory columns become highlighted as well. So we can see for each of the distribution centers, for each product, we've defined a storage capacity and initial inventory in terms of how much inventory is available at the beginning of the model, and associated with that a unit storage cost, so the cost of holding that inventory. We've also got outbound handling associated with product that's flowing out of both the central distribution centers and the DCs themselves. So now let's import that Quick Start template by simply selecting it. I'm going to call it production inventory and give it the same model description, and then we can create a model from the Quick Start template. We can see here that that model is now being created and the data from the template has been imported. Now that import has completed and the model has been created successfully, we can simply click it to open it in Cosmic Frog, and we can see the data that has been imported into the Anora data model. We can see that the customers and facilities tables have been populated, and that data has also been geocoded automatically as part of the import. That means that we can easily jump across to maps and visualize that data. We can see here that we've got customers and central distribution centers. This is Pittsburgh, as well as our DCs, Detroit and Chicago, we can see here. The products table has also been populated with spacesuits, rockets and consumables, and we've automatically created some period data as this is a single period model. We can see that production policies have been created, and this is because the product was available in the import template at each of the CDCs. So this means that the product can be produced, and you'll also see the production costs associated with that product defined in the Quick Start template that's been imported. Inventory policies have also been automatically created, and this is because we set the product type to stock against each of the distribution centres, the 7 distribution centres. So for each of the products, the stocking site is true, the product can be held in inventory, and then we have the initial inventory and the cost associated with storing that inventory set up within the policies. Warehousing policies have also been generated, and this is because we defined a handling cost, an outbound handling cost associated with the products at both the central distribution centres where the product is made and flows out, and also at the distribution centres where the product is stocked. We've also got transportation policies that have been automatically generated, which will allow for the flow of product between all facilities and customers. And these policies have been based on groups that again have been automatically generated by the importing of the Quick Start template. And then finally we have customer demand, and this shows us the amount of demand associated with each customer product group in terms of the quantity. So all we have to do now is click the run button and we're able to run that baseline. Be sure to go back and check out the other use case examples for templates and the other chapters in the video, which will give you more insight to suppliers, production, inventory, and also defining policies in the Quick Start template. In this example, we're going to be looking at a multi-echelon distribution supply chain where policies are defined for fulfillment of customers and also for replenishment of distribution centres. So let's click to download this template, and then we can open it straight up inside Excel. So on the customer demand sheet, we can see that we've got 10 customers, and we've provided data for geocoding. Geocoding will happen automatically when it's imported, and we can see that where the dark purple columns, these are required information. So for each customer, for each product, every customer is receiving the product spacesuits, rockets and consumables. We've defined a quantity and a unit price. What we've also defined, and we're going to use these as part of the policies, are groups. So we can see that these customers here are in a group called Northeast customers, and these customers here are in a different group called other customers. Now let's take a look at the facilities sheet. So we can see that we've got 4 central distribution centres: Pittsburgh, Austin, Denver and Phoenix, and these between them have all of the products: rockets, consumables and spacesuits. But Pittsburgh and Austin are only able to service rockets into the network, and Denver and Phoenix can only service spacesuits. Consumables are available at all of the central distribution centres. Now if we take a look at the product type, for central distribution centres this has been set to available. So this means that the product is generated there inside the model. It usually represents production, but here we're not actually producing product, we're just modelling distribution. So we haven't provided a production cost, we're just telling the model that these products are available to be generated at these facilities. And then for the cross docks, and we have 7 cross docks within the network. This is where the product that's been sourced and replenished from the central distribution centres is flowing through. So we've set the product type here to cross dock. This means that there's no inventory, there's no availability of the product here. It has to be sourced from a central distribution centre, and it has to be flowed through these cross dock facilities. We can also see for the cross docks that we have a throughput capacity. We've also got fixed operating costs and unit outbound handling costs associated with both the central distribution centres and the cross docks. And finally, we've put each of our facilities into a group, and we're going to use these groups for the policies. So we can see that Pittsburgh and Denver are in a group called North CDCs, where Austin and Phoenix are in a group called South CDCs. And then respectively, we can see that the cross docks are also in different groups. Atlanta, Dallas, Salt Lake and San Bernardino are in South cross docks group, and then we can see Chicago, Detroit and Philadelphia are in a group called North Crossdocs. So now let's take a look at policies. We can see that we can select and drop down 3 different policies. We can define fulfillment policies. This represents how product is fulfilled at a customer from a facility. We can define replenishment policies, representing how product is replenished between facilities, and then also procurement policies, representing how product can be sourced from a supplier. So in this example, we've defined both replenishment and fulfillment policies. So let's start with the fulfillment policies. These can be defined between any origin destination, so it could be between a specific facility and a specific customer, but generally these policies are defined at the groups level. So we'll use the groups that have been defined at the customer data level and at the facility data level for these policies. And we're saying that all customers in the Northeast Customers group have to be serviced by facilities in the North Crossdocs group, which also means that customers in the Northeast Customers group can never be serviced by facilities in the South Crossdock groups. For the other customers group, they can be serviced from any of the crossdocks, whether they're in the South Crossdock groups or the North Crossdock groups. And finally, for replenishment, we're using the groups that are defined in the facilities data, and we're saying that all of the North Crossdocks, they can only be serviced and replenished from the CDCs that are in the North, in the group North CDCs, and respectively, the South Crossdocks can only be serviced from the South CDCs. So now let's import that Quick Start template by simply selecting it, and I'm going to call it Distribution with Policies. I will give it the same model description, and now we can create a new model from that Quick Start template. We can see here that that new model is being created, and it's importing that data and populating the Anora data schema. Now the data has been successfully imported into that new model, we can simply click it to open it up in Cosmic Frog and view the data that's been imported into the Anora data model. So we can see that the customers and the facilities table have both been populated, and both those tables are also geocoded. That's happened automatically as part of the import. That means that if we go across to a map, then we can see the customers, we can see the crossdocks, and we can also see the central distribution centres where the product in this model is originating from. We can also see that the products table has been populated with the products spacesuits, rockets and consumables, and we've automatically populated the periods table as this is a single period model. So we can also see multiple policy tables have been populated. So if we look at customer fulfillment policies, this is representing the policies and the groups that were defined in the Quick Start template. So we can see here that the customers in the Northeast Customers group can only be serviced by facilities in the North Crossdocks group, where customers in the other customers group can be serviced by both Southern and Northern Crossdocks. And these groups have automatically been added in to the groups table as part of the import. We can also see that the replenishment policies have been created, and this is using the facility groups defined in the Quick Start template, and we can see that the North Crossdocks, the facilities that are North Crossdocks, can only be serviced by North CDCs, and South Crossdocks can only be serviced by the CDCs, the central distribution centres that are in the South. There have also been production policies generated at the central distribution centres, and this is because we set the product type to available inside the Quick Start template. So this is adding in a production policy. Even though we're not modelling production, it allows these products to be available and generated at the central distribution centres so that they can flow through the crossdocks and fulfil demand. Warehousing policies have also been generated, and this is because there was an outbound handling cost defined in the Quick Start template, and so that outbound handling cost is reflected for both the CDCs and the crossdocks within the network. Transportation policies have also been automatically created, and this ensures the flow of product between all facilities and all customers. And those groups have automatically been created in addition to the groups that were defined inside the Quick Start template. Finally, we have the customer demand. So this is for each customer product group, the quantity of demand required. And now all we have to do is click run and we can run our baseline. Be sure to go back and check out the other use case examples for templates and the other chapters in the video, which will give you more insight to suppliers, production, inventory, and also defining policies in the Quick Start template. In this chapter, we're going to take a look at what happens when we define a partial set of policies that doesn't describe every possible movement within the supply chain. It's recommended to watch chapter 5 before covering this chapter, as that covers off much more detail around defining policies within the Quick Start template. So in this example, we've defined demand. We have 10 customers. Each of those customers have all the products, spacesuits, rockets and consumables, and we've provided the information required for geocoding that will automatically happen. Required fields are in deep purple, and we can see that the quantity and the unit price has also been defined here as well. Now, some of these customers we've defined into a group. So customer 1, 2, 3 and 8 are in a group called Northeast customers, but the other customers haven't been defined within a group. If we look at the facilities sheet, we can see the same. We've got 7 distribution centres. They are able to service all 3 products, rockets, spacesuits and consumables, and product is always available, so the product can originate from all of these. And we can see here that only some of them are in a group. So specifically Chicago, Detroit and Philadelphia are in a group called North DCs. The other facilities haven't been defined into a group. Now let's take a look at the policy sheet. We can see that we've defined a fulfillment policy, and that fulfillment policy is saying that the Northeast customers that are defined in this group in the customer data have to be serviced by North DCs. Again, a partial set of facilities defined in the facilities data. And what this means is this is an incomplete set of policies. It doesn't tell us how the undefined customers that aren't in a group can be serviced. So this means that our model isn't going to run successfully because it doesn't have a complete set of policy information defining how all customers should be fulfilled within the model. Now we could obviously add more data here and we could explicitly define how all of the customers can be fulfilled. But if we don't do that and we just import this Quick Start template as it is, then the import will automatically generate policies and additional scenarios to help us make sure that the model runs. So let's take a look at how that works. So let's select that Quick Start template with the partial policy data set. And I'm just going to call this partial fulfillment policies. And then when we import that data, it will generate a new model. And within that model, it will also generate additional policies to ensure that the model will run. So let's open that newly created model and take a look at the policies that have been generated. So let's take a look at the customer fulfillment policies. We can see here that the policy that's been defined in the import template, where North DCs, all the facilities within that group, are able to service the Northeast customers, all the customers defined in that group. And those groups have been automatically generated for us. But we've also got an additional policy. And this has taken all the customers that haven't been defined in any policy or group and ensured that they can be serviced from all facilities. So again, if we go and we look in the groups table, then we can also see that we have a customer group, which is undefined customers. And that's been automatically created. And that contains the customers that weren't defined in any group in the import template and weren't defined in any policy. So this additional policy will make sure that the model runs successfully. It also means that we've introduced options for products to flow between facilities and customers that may not be expected. So this policy is obviously something that enables the model to run, but it might not to generate the flows that we absolutely want and expect. So by default, this policy is excluded. And what we'll see if we go and we look at the options to run, we now have the baseline and we also have an auto-generated scenario. So this scenario has been created on import for us, and what it does is it includes all of the additional policies that have been generated automatically. So now we have the option to run both of those scenarios. Baseline will respect exactly the policies in the import template. In this case, though, the model will be infeasible because not all of the fulfillment policies have been defined. But the automatically generated scenario that includes all of the policies that we've generated, this will solve, and this will provide a feasible answer against which you can start to validate in maps and analytics and refine those policies to ensure the flows represent what you want and are expecting. So all we have to do now is click both of those scenarios and then click start, and they will run. Be sure to go back and check out the other use case examples for templates and the other chapters in the video, which will give you more insight to suppliers, production, inventory, and also defining policies in the Quick Start template.